Thank you. So, the topic today is how to be lucky. Believe it or not, luck is something that you can learn and acquire. We'd all like to be lucky, but by its nature, it doesn't seem like something that you could strive for or learn. You'd think it's either just statistical distribution or something you're born with or not. There are lots of factors we are just born with, like our nationality, our family wealth, our race, our sex, our genetic health factors. All this stuff there are aspects of luck, and they can be really important, often unfair factors in success. But those aren't the aspects I'm talking about today. I'm talking about things that we can actually control beyond what we're handed. So, what is luck? Is it even a thing? Is it just probability? Does talking about luck from the pulpit in this church and saying we can learn it violate our principle of not promoting the supernatural? Spoiler, it does not. I'm not talking supernatural today. I'm talking psychological research. Luck, the idea of luck confounds several different concepts. Having had good things happen to you in the past, we say someone's lucky if good stuff has happened to them. The idea that someone is prone to have good things happen to them. So I'm lucky. By that, I often mean probably good things are going to happen to me. It also is often used to mean a kind of personal quality of that being more likely. It's not just the statistics, it's that I have this quality of luck. And fourth, we often think of it as a kind of a magic power or blessing that could be manipulated, maybe with charms or rituals or prayers. So let's look at those different concepts of luck, first of all, before I get into the research on it. Obviously, some people are luckier than others in the first sense. Some people have better things happen to them than others. A little less obviously, people who are lucky in the first sense are actually more likely to have more good things happen to them in the future. There are several reasons for that. One of them is the Matthew effect. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. If you have more resources, you're set up well to begin with, you're more likely to have more opportunities and more good stuff for a whole bunch of reasons. So there are like the inborn factors, like your family wealth and your genetics and things like that. But there are also some less visible traits that can actually affect that, which are what I'll talk about soon. Even less obviously, people who believe they are lucky people are actually more likely to have good things happen to them in the future. And the fourth one, counter to our intuitions as rationalists, that quality of overall luck is actually something that can be intentionally manipulated. The only mainstream meaning of luck that is not true is that it's anything supernatural. It's actually founded in practical and psychological principles. So, getting into some research on luck, there have been a number of people who have studied the phenomenon of luck, first of all, to see whether it was even a thing, and second, examining exactly what it was, because it turns out it is a thing. Most of this talk is based on the research of Richard Wiseman, who wrote The Luck Factor, but I'll reference a few other people's research as well. Mark Levin and Richard Wiseman and a number of other people have studied, first of all, whether superstitions like a black cat crossing your path or breaking a mirror or carrying a lucky charm could affect people's luck. Most people have found there was no effect, in some cases even a negative effect. It didn't seem to help in any case. A few people have found that it did seem to help, but those seem to be in cases where the person's attitude might actually affect the outcome, which is what most of this talk is going to be about, is how the way you think about luck might affect your actual luck. Similarly, lots of people have tried to show that prayer changes your luck. It doesn't. The studies that seem to have shown that it had were either fraudulent or very heavily cherry-picked. They tested lots of different things and picked out the one thing that seemed to do better. Again, prayer might affect your own attitudes and therefore your luck. We also have some really popular mainstream things that are supposed to affect your luck. We've got The Secret, we've got the laws of attraction, that kind of magical thinking. The woo part is nonsense. But after you hear the actual research on luck, you'll be able to see why it might sometimes work through affecting people's attitudes and therefore their actions and what they pay attention to. So let's look at Richard Wiseman. In the early 90s, Richard Wiseman decided to investigate what, if anything, luck is. He ran magazine ads and recruited people who considered themselves especially lucky or especially unlucky. He got 400 people. The lucky ones had all kinds of stories about how their lives had been wildly improved through completely chance things, like meeting a spouse at a place where they hadn't even planned to go, or finding a new business prospect that they weren't looking for, avoiding a fatal accident where they should have been in this place, but they were somewhere else so they didn't get hurt. And the unlucky ones seem to have constantly had things go wrong for them and for the people around them. Just everything happened to them that was bad. And objectively, these people really were lucky and unlucky in the first sense. They had histories of lots of good things happening to them, lots of bad things happening to them. Their self-assessments also turned out to have predictive value because in the course of the study, the people who called themselves lucky continued to have good things happen to them, and the people who called themselves unlucky continued to have bad things happen to them until the end of the study when they improved their luck. We'll get to that. So based on whether they had categorized themselves as lucky or unlucky, we could predict whether they were going to continue to have good things or bad things happen to them. So it did seem like there was something going on here apart from just, well, these people have had good things happen to them, so of course they think they're lucky. So what about this third sense of luck? Was there some quality that the lucky people had that the unlucky people lacked, or maybe vice versa? And if so, is luck inborn, or is it something that people can learn? So Wiseman studied the lucky and unlucky people. He threw barrages of tests at them, personality tests, IQ tests, questionnaires about mood, things like that. And he found that they were different in some clearly identifiable ways. One obvious one was that lucky people were more extroverted, and unlucky people were more neurotic, more anxious than the lucky people. So he explored that. Like, can we manipulate that? How does this affect people's lives? And his further research revealed that these luck differences were also associated with different attitudes and different behaviors, which affected what opportunities came up for people and how they responded to them. I'm going to read a piece from Richard Wiseman that covers the basics here. My research revealed that lucky people generate their own fortune via 4 basic principles. They are skilled at creating and noticing chance opportunities. They make lucky decisions by listening to their intuition. They create self-fulfilling prophecies via positive expectations and adopt a resilient attitude that transforms bad luck into good. So these 4 principles are the core of what luck is and how people are creating or drawing or noticing better things for themselves in their lives. They notice stuff when it comes up and jump on it. They listen to their gut when that's appropriate. They expect good things to happen, so that helps them be ready for them when they come. And they respond to bad things happening in a resilient way that allows them to maintain an optimistic perspective. I'm going to read more of what Wiseman says about the chance opportunities piece, because this is one of the core pieces of his research here that shows the difference between a lucky perspective and an unlucky perspective. Lucky people consistently encounter chance opportunities, whereas unlucky people do not. I carried out a very simple experiment to discover whether this was due to differences in their ability to spot such opportunities. I gave both lucky and unlucky people a newspaper and asked them to look through it and tell me how many photographs were inside. On average, the unlucky people took about 2 minutes to count the photographs, whereas the lucky people took just seconds. Why? Because the second page of the newspaper contained the message, "Stop counting, there are 43 photographs in this newspaper." The message took up half the page and was written in type that was over 2 inches high. It was staring everyone in the face, but the unlucky people tended to miss it, and the lucky people tended to spot it. So the way he constructed this experiment, he created an opportunity that was right there for people, But the unlucky people had a narrower focus for what they were looking for, so they missed the opportunity that would have gotten them their objective in a better way. Because they focused their attention very narrowly, they missed the option to get what they really wanted. Just for fun, I placed a second large message halfway through the newspaper. This one announced, "Stop counting, tell the experimenter you have seen this, and win $250. Again, the unlucky people missed the opportunity because they were still too busy looking for photographs. Personality tests revealed that unlucky people are generally much more tense and anxious than lucky people, and research has shown that anxiety disrupts people's ability to notice the unexpected. He did another experiment with dots on people's peripheral vision, and the lucky people were much more likely to see the dots, including when they had just had an experience that stressed them out a little bit, and the unlucky people would miss them a lot of the time. So one of the key pieces here is to learn to have a wider range of attention and what you notice. And there are some specific ways to do that. The fact that anxiety makes that hard, and that having had bad luck tends to lead to higher anxiety. You know, if you were born poor, if you've had a bunch of misfortune that has made your life harder, you are likely to be more anxious. So that's a raw deal. But you can learn to shift that a little bit so that it doesn't have as bad an influence as it might. I don't want to set this up as, oh, if you're lucky, that's your fault, because people's experiences shape this. What I'm saying is, however bad or good your luck has been up till this point, you can shift it a bit. And the more you do to shift it, the more that will help you shift it in the future. So your life may suck, chance does happen, but there are some steps you can take to try to improve your opportunities that are available in your environment. So one of the things that he strongly recommends is working to reduce that anxiety, because it's not just a bad experience for you, it's also going to reduce your effectiveness and reduce your luck, because it reduces your ability to notice better opportunities than the ones your pinpoint attention is on. So practices like meditation, journaling, therapy, if you can get it, are things that will not only improve your anxiety levels, but thereby improve your luck. So that's one of the pieces. Another thing, for as far as noticing opportunities, you can also create opportunities for yourself by setting up your life so that you have introduced novelty on a regular basis. If you always have the same routines, you are not going to have as many novel opportunities as if you purposefully do things like, oh, I'm going to take a different route to work every day I can. You know, I'm going to take a different turn today. I'll go around this block this way. Or if you say, okay, this time when I'm going to go to a party, I'm going to only talk to people wearing blue. Or I'm going to try this new restaurant that I've never been to before. I'm going to try a new hobby. If you purposefully set for yourself the goal of introducing novelty, and you create even arbitrary rituals like this, you will make it more likely that you'll have chance opportunities show up. He found that a lot of the lucky people had weird little rituals like that for making sure that something new would come into their lives on a regular basis. Then we've got the piece about resiliency, and I want to cover that even though it's not particularly in order here. When unlucky people have an experience, they tend to see the bad side of it. If they have a bad experience, they will be overwhelmed by the bad experience and think, this is terrible. I wanted it to go this other way that would have been much better, but this is what happened instead. And they will even do that with positive experiences. Oh, I hoped this was going to be better, but it only got this. Lucky people tend to see things in the other order. If something good happens, they go, yay, something good happened, even if it wasn't the best it could have been. And if something bad happens, they go, phew, at least it wasn't even worse. So you can take either bad or good experiences and frame them positively or negatively. neither approach is true or false. It's just a different way of focusing on what happened. We naturally go to contrafactuals when something happens. We think, oh, what else could have happened? And if you find yourself regularly thinking, this could have gone so much better, try experimenting with, think about how it could have gone worse. Because even though that sounds kind of weird to think about what could have been worse, that will at least put you into a state of going, okay, so the way things went is not the worst way it could have been. And that can actually set you up for better expectations and a more kind of grounded and positive mindset. So luck is a real thing. A bunch of research has shown that it is a personal quality with attitudes, predictive value, definable characteristics. Can we teach people this stuff? Because Wiseman found that some people did have habits that constituted luck, and I've kind of implied that these are learnable. He decided he was going to try to teach people how to be luckier. So he took a selection of his subjects and he gave them lessons, exercises to work on to practice a lucky mindset based on what he'd learned in the study for a month. And at the end of that month, 80% of participants reported that they had become luckier than they started. The ones who were already lucky said, wow, my life has even improved. I'm even luckier than I started. And some of the unlucky people reported their lives had turned completely around, that they no longer considered themselves unlucky. A number of people had found partners or better jobs just by chance in the course of following these exercises and shifting their attitudes and behaviors. So, what steps can we take to improve our own luck? We've got these 4 principles. Notice opportunities. So, we want to maximize the chances of chance opportunities. We want to widen our attention, look for things that we're not expecting that might be helpful or fun or just what you didn't know you were looking for, but exactly what you need. And you want to arrange for novel experiences, going new places, talking to new people, trying new activities, trying new approaches to things. Second, we want to listen to our intuitions, listen to lucky hunches. This one I'm not going to go into as much detail on. You can read the whole book if you want everything that he has to say about this. But meditating can help with this, just as it can help with the lowering the anxiety. It can help with kind of being attuned to noticing stuff when your brain isn't just being noisy. And expect good fortune, expect good things to happen to you is principle 3. Lucky people are sure that the future is going to be full of good fortune, and this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because it helps them persist even in the face of failure. It helps them shape their interactions with others in a positive way. So this links in with Carol Dweck's growth mindset concept, and I would recommend, if you want further stuff to read from this talk, you can read not only Richard Wiseman, but also Carol Dweck on growth mindset and also Martin Seligman on learned optimism. These are all very closely linked concepts. So if you wish you could do something you can't currently, one illustration of this is rather than framing it as, I can't do that, I don't know how to do that, I'm not the kind of person who can do that, stop framing it as a permanent quality and frame it as a thing you're working on. I'm not yet very good at that. I'm working on getting good at that. It's a really different approach, and it may seem really artificial at first, but if you're trying to change, you have to do something that's not comfortable. In fact, that's a major part of it. Don't be scared of change. For some people, being unlucky ends up being part of their identity. And I've talked before about needing to be able to get rid of, let go of parts of your self-concept that are not serving you. It has to be okay to let go of being unlucky, because being unlucky sucks. So be okay with trying something new. And if you really have trouble letting go of that, therapy or counseling might help with that, because it can be hard to let go of a piece of yourself, even if it's a piece that sucks. And I wanted to mention, if you've had very bad luck in your life, and especially if you grew up with abuse or poverty, you may have learned helplessness. And I think it's probably more more accurate to call this trained helplessness or taught helplessness, because this comes from people's experiences. They've learned from being shown it that they shouldn't try anything because it won't help. They can't escape the bad experiences they're having. It might even make things worse if they try to change anything. So when you come out of that kind of situation, you might not even notice that you're not in it anymore because your habits have been trained to, no, don't stick your head out, don't try anything, you'll only get hurt, you'll only be more disappointed. And it's really hard to unlearn that. It's one of those things that was the right strategy when you were in an environment where you're being ground down all the time. And if you want to grow, you need to learn different strategies. So that is Martin Seligman's work, learned helplessness and then learned optimism. Principle 4 is turn bad luck to good. Lucky people use different psychological techniques to cope with ill fortune and even thrive in the face of ill fortune. They think about how things could have been worse. They don't dwell on that. They take control. They do what they can with whatever the situation is. So try to find the good in whatever it is that has happened. Maybe this thing is awful, but you noticed something you can work with, so work with that. And it wasn't quite as bad as it could have been. There was one subject in Richard Wiseman's study who had been one of the really, really lucky people. And he showed up to an appointment later in the study with a broken leg. And Richard Wiseman kind of joked with him, said, "Still think you're lucky?" He's like, "Heck yeah, I could have broken my neck." And that's kind of typical of lucky thinking. Of course, you don't want to break your leg, but it's sure better than breaking your neck. So the ability to notice that you did not have the worst experience you could possibly have, and you still have the power to carry on. If you break your neck and die, that's it. You're not there to be lucky or unlucky anymore. But if you broke your leg, you can keep on going. So you want to notice the good things. And one very practical thing you can do about that is to keep a luck journal or an optimism journal. Each day, at the end of the day, write down the best thing that happened that day, or 3 good things that went well that day, or the most positive thought you had that day. It might be that you had a really great day and you can write down 3 great things that happened. Okay, no problem. Might be you had a really crappy day, in which case, try to find some little kernel of good somewhere in the day. Maybe you looked out the window and you saw some pretty flowers at one point. That's really all you can think of that day. That's okay. It's something. It might be that there was something bad that used to happen a lot that didn't happen today. That's good too. The absence of a bad thing is also good. So if you're keeping a journal like this, it can really help. Wiseman noticed that the participants who kept the luck journal would reorient to thinking about and noticing good things and opportunities very quickly. This is a really simple intervention, so it's something to try. And it's also really important. This is not part of Wiseman's work, but this is a piece of being lucky. Acknowledge the role of luck in your life. If you are very successful, if you have a great life, you've been able to pursue work that satisfies you, you have enough resources, you have family and friends you're happy with, and you're just generally doing really great. People who say, "Yes, I did this all myself," are pompous asses, and they are selfish, and they are perceived as such. Acknowledging the role of luck as well as your work and your talent actually makes you more lucky. It makes you more attractive. It makes you more compassionate to other people. So recognize the luck that you've had as well as the work that you've put in and the talent that has helped you along the way. And people will like you better and you'll have more luck because, being liked and being compassionate is part of being effective in the world too. So in short, you're already lucky. Even if you've had a million things go wrong in your life, there are a million things that could have gone worse, and you have lots of opportunities coming in your future. You can learn to see the luck you already have, to make room for serendipity in your life, to spot those opportunities, and you can help yourself and other people have luckier lives. If you'd like to read more, we've got The Luck Factor by Richard Wiseman. We've got Mindset by Carol Dweck, and we've got Learned Optimism by Martin Seligman. I'm going to post my sources and further reading recommendations in the chat, and let's go on to discussion.
Thank you, Eva. Let's all unmute ourselves for a moment and give a round of applause. Thank you.